I don't believe that Amber Heard had a chance to address the Australia and smuggling the dogs to Australia because it wasn't brought up during the US trial. However, it was brought up during the UK trial. I've already read this a couple months ago, but if you haven't already, let's see what she said. So there are like three people in this transcript. I'll try my best to use different voices to distinguish between the three of them. We have Johnny Depp's lawyer, we have the judge, and then we have Amber Heard. This is day 12 of the UK trial. Ms. Laws is Johnny's lawyer. That is right, yes. I want to deal with now, please. So this witness statement is dated 26 June 2020. Do you have that in front of you? Amber Heard. I have the witness statement, yes. Is this it? I'm going to ask you one or two things about it, but the topic that I'm going to ask you about is taking the dogs into Australia, all right? We might be able to deal with this fairly swiftly. We may not, but I'm going to suggest to you that you were told by Mr. Murphy that in no uncertain terms, you could not take those dogs into Australia. Were you not? I was told many things. When we were trying to figure out whether they can travel or not, I was shooting movies, and this happened over a span of maybe 8 months. So I was told we might be able to. I was told not yet. I was told you have to wait to a different day. It was quite confusing. Did I miss something, or are we still on the fifth witness statement? I was simply asking you, the question it was made quite clear to you by Mr. Murphy that you could not take the dogs into Australia, and you say there were mixed messages? Okay. Is that your answer? Yes. I'm going to say these messages were fairly clear. In fact, if you could put for that moment that file to the side and actually take a look at these messages, which is file 2, tab D59. Judge interrupts. Just a minute. 59D? 59D. I think you said D59, but there is a separator D, but you are asking us to look at the statement of Kevin Murphy. That is it. The second witness statement. That is right. It starts on D237.1, but can I ask my lawyer to flick over to D237.14? Amber Heard. Can you repeat the number one more time, please? D237.14. This is the judge. This is an email from Kevin Murphy to AH. Have I gotten the right page, Miss Laws? Yes. This is the right page. 28 March. Yes, D237.14. This is a message, an email message from Mr. Murphy to you dated 28 March 2015. Is it not? Amber Heard. Yes, it is. AH is you. And she's going to read the email right now from Amber Heard, I think. Oh, no, this is actually Kevin Murphy's message to Amber Heard. Hi, just making sure you know the dogs will not be able to fly commercial in the passenger compartment to Australia. Read to the words in quotation marks. Not including flight. Here's the judge interrupting. The 10,000 is not specified, is it? 10K. Now she's going to read the rest of the email. Per our last discussion, read the dog's travel. Read to the words in parentheses. Around May 7th, estimate. Then for the reply, I'm afraid we have to go back to page 237.14. At the top of the page, it is Mr. Murphy, is it not to you, that message at the top, March 29th. Amber Heard, yes. What he is saying is, she's going to read the email. Hi, because of the paperwork process, combination of vet visits, permit applications, let me know if you have any additional questions. Then for the carry-on correspondence, my lord, we can go to page 237.13 at the top. Your response is, shit, okay, we are out of options then because I don't know what else to do. He responds to you, morning, would you allow them to fly cargo? Judge interrupts. Just a minute. Yes. Johnny's lawyer continues to read. Would you allow them to fly cargo? If we then go to D237.15 at the top, we have Mr. Murphy to you saying on March 30th, I will have to continue the process for the dogs if they are going. There will be some non-refundable charges. Can you advise, please? Thanks. If you look at the response underneath, that is back to Mr. Murphy. I'm sorry, but as I understood it, they were not able to travel with Jay since they could not travel with him. What process needs to be continued exactly? That was Amber Heard's email. Then, rather confusingly, here's the judge interrupting again. Just a minute. We go over leaf to page 237.16, and your answer is at the bottom. In fact, it is the answer from Mr. Murphy. He said, we never concluded the original conversation other than you saying no to cargo. If that means that the dogs will not travel, then I will discontinue the paper travel process. Then, on the final message between the two of you is on April 1st. That is on page 237.17. Your response is, yes, unless there's another way to get them there or get them on the plane with Jay, I don't send them in cargo. It is too dangerous. So you were heard by Kevin Murphy, who had been doing quite a lot of work on this, was not able to get the documentation ready on time. Was he? This is Amber Heard. No. As you can see from the small amount of correspondence that you just read, this was a process that had been going on for about 6 months. I was out of the country filming a movie. I was not even there with Johnny. So it was quite confusing to me what was going on since, as I had said in one of my emails to him, I do not understand why we're still emailing about this if there is a no-go. If that means they simply could not, and often in my experience with Johnny, if Johnny wanted something, it happened. We found a way to make it work out, and he told me when I landed, I was only in LA for a amount of hours before we got on the plane for his movie, on his flight, with his crew, with his staff, for his movie, and I assumed everything had been taken care of when he said it was all taken care of. I had no reason to get any clarity on it. Can you go to file 4, please, tab 142? File 4, here's the judge. Can we put 2 away? Yes, please. Which tab in file 4? Tab 142. 142, page 4883. That is right. I'm going to ask a question about it in a moment, but we have left ahead in time. I suggest to you it was laid out in black and white that the problem was that there was just not going to be enough time to take them unless you took them cargo. I'm going to suggest you took the decision to take them anywhere, did you not? It was not my decision. I'm going to suggest to you it was your decision. All those messages are between you and other people acting on your behalf on this matter, are they not? Johnny's the boss. You are the boss, are you not, Miss Heard? I do not call any of the shots. This was Johnny's plane. This is Johnny's staff, Johnny's crew for Johnny's travel. I don't believe that. As his girlfriend back then, I don't believe that she didn't call any of the shots. Just a minute. Yes. Let us have a look at these emails because what followed, we all know, and I can deal with it neutrally, is that you got caught. We both flew in, both Johnny and I, both on our dogs for his movie on his plane. We brought the dogs in plain sight. Just a minute. We both filled up the same entry cards. We both signed the same things. And yet I was the only one that took the charges. Because if Johnny got charges, it would further compromise Pirates, which was already compromised. I wonder why. Just a minute. Ms. Heard, that is yet another occasion when I asked a question and used it as an opportunity to say something negative about Mr. Depp. I didn't say anything negative. I'm just trying to tell you the story. Can I ask you the question, which was, you knew full well that you could not take those dogs in and you took them anyway? Do you agree or disagree? Johnny told me that we could bring the dogs in. I was not even there for more than a few hours. I flew into... Just a minute. You didn't have a single conversation with anyone about it, other than Johnny. With your staff, about how they managed to achieve this? Miss Laws, I did not have a staff. What about Mr. Murphy? That is Johnny's staff. All right, you did not have any more conversation with him. The conversation stops there. I was very confused. I was shooting another movie, and it was not my travel arrangements. Just a minute. I'm just trying to be helpful. It was Johnny's plans. It was Johnny's movies, Johnny's staff, Johnny's dog. It was my dog and Johnny's dog. We filled out the same forms, and I was the only one to get charged. Can I ask you then who you were asking to take the blame for this? I took the blame. That's why I pled guilty. Just a minute, please. You were making efforts and you wanted to see if you could shunt the blame onto Ms. James, did you not? I pled guilty. Why would I need to do that? According to what you just said, the last you heard about what was happening with the dogs was from Mr. Depp, so you did not know who in fact had sorted it all out. It was a member of his staff who must have had it done, is that right? He had a large staff. There are many people responsible for things at various points of the travel. What was being asked? Did you know which particular member of staff had sorted this out? Said the judge. I did not know it required exactly. Thank you. So there's absolutely no reason for you to be emailing Martin Carl, an exclamation mark, and contacting Mr. Murphy about trying to get Kate James to write a statement about this. Just a little notation here. At this point, Amber Heard had already fired Kate James. Amber Heard. No, this is October 2015. This is after Marty Singer, Johnny's lawyer, had already stepped in where the authorities were alerted to the dog's presence, and they were handling all communications. And shortly after we left Australia, I found out that I was going to be faced with the charges, and me alone, even though we flew in together, filled out the same paperwork, and brought the same dogs. Judge, there is a point that I've had in mind for where are we going? For a little time now, and I think I can ask Miss Heard about it. As I've understood it, the charge you faced was bringing a dog into Australia, although you said in some form or another that you were not bringing a dog in Australia. This is Amber Heard. The entry card, yes. The entry cards include that there are no illegal plants or animals being brought in with you. And I've traveled often with the dogs with Johnny, and the paperwork often included separate paperwork that did not list your travel dogs as one of those things you had to mark on the intake forms upon entering. So I mistakenly, so did Johnny, filled out the form thinking that it was separate paperwork that needed to be filled out to indicate dogs that we're traveling with as pets. We filled out these forms because Johnny was and had already compromised filming because of his finger and the amount of time that derailed production. I wonder who calls that. It became clear to me through Johnny's attorneys that if I took the charges because I'm significantly less, have a lesser profile, if you were in the press, that it would somehow make it his job was less threatened than it already was. So I took the charges and I accepted I filled out the form incorrectly and that I represented a falsehood. Just a minute. I think that the charges were not only making a false statement and you agreed that you knew it was false because you knew you had a dog with you? Exactly. That is, here's the judge. Just a minute. That concludes what I wanted to ask. Wait for Miss Law's next question. I was going to take you to some emails that post-date this, but as we have dealt with at that point, I wonder if I can take you, so you might have to put that on file on the side, just to deal with a particular point about what it was that you did sign that his lordship had just raised. If you can, it is file 5.1, so you can either put it away or put it to one side. And 2.1, you previously told me to put that to the side. Maybe I can put that away for now. Wherever it can go. Did you say 2.1? The file I've asked for is 5.1. 2.1 was Ms. Hurt's reference. Yes. Tab 201B, it is right at the top. This, my lord, just put into context, is in fact a transcript proceedings at the Magistrates Court in Southport on 18th April 2016. So, she's going to read this. On 21st April 2015, a private plane arrived at the Brisbane airport and was met by quarantine and custom officers. Oh my God, the judge keeps interrupting. You are reading from F1303.5, right at the top. In quotations, on 21st April 2015, a private plane arrived at Brisbane airport and was met by quarantine and customs officers. Ms. Hurd was on board that plane, as were the dogs. The answer was false. That was the nature of the charge. That was the nature of the charge that you pleaded guilty to, is it not? That is correct. So just dealing with the point you knew was false. You knew you were taking those dogs in and you knew that you were not allowed to do so. Did you not? Judge. Well, the charge was bringing the dogs in, having said that she was not bringing the dogs in. Yes. And the plea to the charge of guilty assumes that it was knowingly false. Yes. What was the question you were asking? The question was, were you taking those dogs in knowingly that you did not know you have the proper paperwork? Were you not? That is different. No, I thought we had the proper paperwork. Just a minute. It is different. And so did Johnny. So put aside Mr. Depp yet again for the moment. It is you that we are talking about now. We both signed it. Yes, but I'm asking about you. I'm asking you about you. We will get through this a lot quicker if you restrict your answers to the questions that I ask. Sure. You knew that you did not have the paperwork. Otherwise, you would not have ticked that box, would you? No, I thought because we had that paperwork, I should tick that box. Just a minute. Yes. It is that mistake that I pled guilty to. It is a complete nonsense to suggest that by ticking a box saying that you're not bringing animals in, nobody would do that if... Amber Heard interrupts. I can answer that if you're asking me why. Nobody would do that if they thought they had the paperwork, would they? By the way, the lawyer makes a good point right here. That is how you used to fill it when you out. That is how you used to fill it out when you entered the United States. It was a different form than the normal one. That was on the intake card when I used to travel with just something unclear. So if you go back to file 4, can you take that out, please? Do you have that on tab 142? I do. You have told us that you did not know which member of staff sorted it out, but what we see here, and I'm going to try to take you through it, are emails, which shows that you are trying to find someone to take the blame for you, and that someone is Miss James, is it not? Absolutely not. She did not work for me anymore. That is why you were picking on her, because she was no longer working for you. Just a minute. The question of whether you are finding someone to take the blame for you, do you agree or disagree with that? No, I had already pled guilty. Then the question was about Kate James. Was Kate James the person you're asking to take the blame for you? No. Let us have a look at these emails because this is what they're all about, is it not? It is you to Martin Carl at F883, my lord, file 4. Which tab? 142. Which page do you want to go to at the top? We start at the top. October 9th, is it you to Martin Carl? It is Carl Martin, is it not? No. What is the name of the person you're emailing? Carl Austin and Marty Singer. Sorry, in quotations. It was great. I will procure the statements. That would be great. Overleaf, rather than confusingly to you to go to F884 to the bottom, we have from Mr. Singer to you. So underneath the message from Carl Austin, do you see it October 11, 2015? Yes. Carl Austin is in fact your entertainment lawyer, is he not? Yes, he is. Just a minute. Yes. This damn judge. If you go to F885, I can read it out easier in full. In quotation marks, if you look at my email below October 9, if you ask her not to be truthful. This is from Marty Singer, is it? Yes, to you. Is it not, Miss Heard? Yes. So, Miss James is lying, is she, when she gave an account about this? I do not know. Did she give an account about this? You wanted her, did you not, to make a statement that was a lying statement to take responsibility? No, I did not need to. I was pleading guilty. Just let me you wanted her to make a lying statement and you've denied that was the case? That is correct. You ended up having to ask, or did you ask Kevin Murphy and he did it for you? Did he not? He lied? I do not know if he was able to reach out to Kate. He ended up making the statement. The question was concerning Mr. Murphy, but what was the question that Ms. Heard was asking Mr. Murphy to do? We have dealt with it in the email. You're asking Mr. Murphy to see if Kate James would lie for you, were you not? No, I was asking Kevin Murphy to get a statement from Kate, amongst other people that I've had worked about, in order to prove that we had many times traveled with the dogs and attempted to follow all legal protocols, and that we had many times before, had tried to do so legally, including this time when we were attempting to start the process in order to show that there was an attempt, a long-withstanding attempt, to go about this process legally. I did not need to ask anyone to lie for me. Why would I? I already pled guilty. Mr. Murphy did lie for you. He, in fact, made a statement, essentially blaming the paperwork commission on Kate James. Did he not? I have seen many versions of Kevin Murphy saying things that contradict himself for various reasons. Damn, she's throwing shade at Kevin Murphy. Do not worry about whether he contradicts himself. Is that what he did? He seems to suggest that is what he did. If you're going to ask Mr. Murphy's statement for the Australia proceedings, we have that. Can you remind me where it is? If I may for a moment, it is at the back of this new statement. I will get a reference for you in a moment, if I may. While we wait for the reference, if Mr. Murphy, I think this has been, do you want to deal with the reference now? Yes, please then. If we can go to file 4 away and go to file 2, this is page tab 59D. The statement is 2D237.21. 21. D237.21. Then you will see the statement of Kevin Murphy overleaf. It is signed by him, dated 20th October 2015 at the bottom of paragraph 4, just to read out, talking about in connection with the travel arrangements, in quotation marks. If the necessary travel-related paperwork cannot be obtained, either Ms. James or I would notify Mr. Depp and Mrs. Depp. Otherwise, Mr. Depp and Mrs. Depp would not be notified. In this case, you've been notified initially, had you not? We've just seen the messages. Are you asking me? Yes, I said, have you not? What? I'm sorry. You were notified about the problems in travel by Mr. Murphy. I was notified along the way that there were all sorts of back and forths. In fact, there have been several instances where the dogs have not traveled internationally because the necessary travel paperwork could not be obtained in time for the dogs to travel legally. It was a complete lie by Mr. Murphy, was not, at your request? I have no idea if these statements reflect the truth. Just a minute. Even in the version of the events, that is a lie because... Just a minute. Sorry. You asked whether there was a lie by Mr. Murphy in relation to the last sentence, paragraph 5, and Ms. Heard said that she had no idea of whether that was true. What was the next question, please, Ms. Lawls? The next question was, even on your own account, that would not be correct because your account is that all Mr. Depp's responsibility. So it was not anyone on your staff or your payroll who was organizing this? That's not true. Kate has been fired in early February 2015. I traveled with Johnny and his staff on his plane to go to shoot his movie or to accompany him on his movie in April of 2015, sometime after my assistant. There was a time where Mr. Depp injured his finger, and that was March. Yes. You then, as we have heard, flew back to Australia, Los Angeles with Mr. King, and then you went out again in Australia, I think in April 2015. April 21st, 2015. By the time my assistant had been fired, she would have had contact and been responsible for handling some versions of this and helping Mr. Murphy, who had the primary responsibility in handling such things. However, she would have stopped doing that after her termination. In the messages we have seen, I do not want to spend too much time on it because the messages are what they are. In the messages that we have seen between you and Mr. Murphy, he is dealing with the arrangements. At no stage is Miss James mentioned. You just brought her in for the purpose of these proceedings in Australia, did you not? I disagree. Just a minute. In fact, there are many communications between. If Kevin Murphy had not made that statement, the charges against you would have been so far more serious. No, I pled guilty and stood charges for such that plea. Just a minute. Trying to get around the official rules is something you've done before, is it not? I do not know what that even means. I am sorry. You do not think there's anything wrong with asking vets to slightly alter health documents, do you? Particularly with dog travel, Johnny would just tell me that it could just be taken care of. And when I expressed to him that it was not in my hands or it was not getting done fast enough, or we were trying, he would tell me, just tell them to take care of it, to tell them to grease the fuckers. Johnny would say this to me at any time he displayed any sort of delay in getting done what he thought was just an easy move around. In his world, it was. Just a minute. Again, I was asking not about Mr. Depp. I was asking about you and about what you think is right or wrong. So you can just please answer the question. You do not think there is anything at all wrong with asking someone to get a vet to slightly alter a health document, do you? I was answering your question, Ms. Laws. My answer is, let us deal with the question that Ms. Laws is now asking. Do you think it is wrong to get a vet to alter the document? Of course I do, but it was not always my choice. I did not live in a relationship where I had a lot of choice. Just a minute. My lord, I was asking about file 2, tab 56, please. D197. It is the very last page. Some of the numbers may not be printed on your lordship's copy. This is an email. Subject, Pistol and Boo. Dated 21st September 2013. From you to Kate James when she was your assistant. That is right, is it not? Yes, it appears to be that. You say, can we maybe help Kevin procure a slightly altered health document that has their shots recorded as 2 days before so they can all leave together on 25th? Do we have a vet that we can grease? Connection? Question mark. Are you asking me something? Do you agree, first of all, that you sent that email? I sent it at Johnny's request. That is his language. You see, I was not... You sent the email at Mr. Depp's request? He told me, just wait for the next question, please. Every time you're asked about a document or whatever recording which may appear to implicate you, for whatever it is, you deny and blame Mr. Depp for every single time. Do you not? No. All right, let us move to Malaysia train incident. All right, so that's it for the Australia. Let's see if there's any more. I think that might be it, though. Oh, actually, the conversation does continue on the next day. So we're on day 13 of the UK trial. Now, this part here is Ms. Wass. I believe she was the lawyer, or they call it the barrister, for the son. So she's essentially on like Amber Heard's side. All right, how was your second visit to Australia? You have asked about the nature of that. I have asked. We have had your answers. Thank you, Miss Heard. I want to move on to the importation of the dogs. Now, again, it is suggested that really you were the person who imported the dog. It was not Mr. Depp's responsibility at all. Can you help us? Is that a correct assessment of who was in fact responsible for what happened with Pistol and Boo? No, that is incorrect. What is the purpose of your trip to Australia on April 21st? Ms. Wass, if you want to develop something new on this, but I do have Ms. Heard's evidence that this was a trip back to Australia to allow Mr. Depp to complete the films he was working on. And all her evidence is that it was his trip, his staff, and his travel. My lord, I will not take any time. Can I then ask you to look at file 5.1 tab 201B? This is a document that you were asked about because it was suggested you were dishonest. Just a moment. 5.1 201B. Is this a transcript of the proceedings before the magistrate's court? That is exactly what it is. Yes. You were then asked about what you had accepted responsibility for in this case. Can you please go to F1303.6? Yes. I'm going to ask you this because you were asked about part of this document. And I'm going to ask you about a different part of the same document. At the top of the page, it says, of the facts relating to the matter, at the time of Ms. Heard's departure for Australia in April 2015, Ms. Heard was unaware the documentation of the dog's importation to Australia had not been completed. Let me try and understand. This is the magistrate talking, is it? Yes. She relied on staff to organize that along with other travel arrangements. Just prior to Ms. Heard leaving for Australia, her assistant, one of the staff responsible for the documentation, has been dismissed from employment in acrimonious circumstances. That is a reference to whom, please? Kate James. There were difficulties associated with this and had repercussions in the preparation of the documents concerning the importation of the dogs. Further to this, Ms. Heard had the belief at the time of the arriving that the form she did fill out did not cover pets. She believed that all relevant paperwork had been completed for the dogs and provided to the Australian authorities separately. I accept that she did not set out to deliberately deceive the Australian authorities. I also accept that it is not a question of a person believing that she is above the law. Does this reflect your understanding of the court's decision when you pleaded guilty to the importation of the dogs? Exactly. Thank you very much. That was Amber Heard's version of the story during the UK trial. Earlier, I posted a video about my breakdown, summary, and thoughts about some of the things that she said. Feel free to stop in during my live streams. I do stream mainly on twitch.tv/Corgi-san, sometimes on YouTube. But anyways, thanks for popping in, and I'll see you guys next time.